their attention. I mean, the president of Chile basically told the economics minister to call me up and ask me what they should do. And I spent some time talking to them, and then I wrote about it as well. I said, here's what you should do. First of all, the local culture, because I spent some time with local entrepreneurs, they're also same problem of failure. They're risk averse, they're comfortable. I said, there's no way you can build an outsourcing industry. There's no way you can build a domestic tech industry because you don't have the, they've got brilliant people. I mean, now they have a base of engineers, but they didn't have the entrepreneurial mindset that's needed. So I said, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you import them? You know, these million people who are stuck in limbo in America, they're going back in the record numbers. So what if you could siphon off a few thousand of them? Instead of going back to Bangalore, tell the Indians they can come down to Santiago, get a green card, and give them some money to come over here. Give them some cheap housing, give them, set up a few buildings over there. And they love the idea, basically. So they introduced a program called Startup Chile about 4 months ago. Startup Chile offers anyone in the world that wants to start a company in Chile $40,000 just for coming down there and living there for 6 months. No strings attached. What you have to do is you have to show your business plan to them and do an interview with them to make sure that you're not coming there for vacation. It's a great place to go for vacation. So they want to make sure you're serious. If they think you're serious about building a company, you'll come and live there for 6 months. They'll give you office space, basically taking a couple of buildings and providing you with internet access. You can rent an apartment on the beach in Vina del Mar over there for about $400 a month, fully furnished.
You can't be Chilean to get the money. You can't be Chilean.
You can't be Chilean to get the money. That's the criticism of the.
You can be Argentinian though, right?
Right. Right. But anyone who wants to come there gets $40,000. So you could live there very comfortably for a year on $40,000. You can also not to buy your computers and so on. So I wrote about it. They've been flooded with applications. They've taken the first 25 entrepreneurs over there. I've asked them to take it to 250 by early next year, and then to 1,000 within the next 2 years. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, of the 1,000 that go there, 90% of the companies are going to fail, because 90% of startups fail everywhere, in the tech world, which is okay. Probably half of them will be homesick and want to go back. They'll go back. The rest of them will end up liking the place. They'll stay there and do this second startup over there. Out of these 1,000, they'll probably have, even in the short term, they'll probably have 25 to 50 successful startups. That's huge over there. Plus, what's going to happen is that the entrepreneurs coming in are going to hire the local workforce. I've also asked them to put in place one of the outsourcing programs by which they give you training dollars to hire locals. So you can bring on a local for your company. It costs about $25,000 a year to hire a Java programmer with 5 years experience. The government should give them $25,000 for the first year, anyone they want to hire. They do that for the outsourcing industry. So you're going to hire local people. You interact with them. Suddenly they have hundreds of startups there which didn't exist before, and now suddenly they have their locals are now connected to the foreigners. They start learning about global ways. They start learning about entrepreneurship. For between $10 and $40 million, Chile is going to build a tech center like no other country has ever been able to do before. That's the experiment that they're running. I'll bet you it succeeds in a big way. So that's one prescription for Chile. What can the Russians do? My prescription for Russia was totally different. What I said to them was that if you look at Russia, the background of Russia, they've always had the engineers and scientists. In fact, they, at one stage, they were way ahead of us in science and engineering. And even today, mathematicians and engineers and scientists are looked up to in society. So parents don't tell their kids not to study that, and they don't end up doing music. The best people still study engineering. They study math and science. It's much stronger than it is over here. That's a given. Risk-taking, yeah, the Russians will take risks. But the fear of failure isn't that high. There's no funding for them. They're worried about corruption. Okay? And then they don't know what to develop. They want to do, the local markets are so small, they have no understanding of American markets. So with the Russians, I said to them, immigration, forget it. Even if you paid them $400,000, no one was going to go to Russia for 6 months. I mean, it's imagine hanging out in Novosibirsk, Siberia, or Yaroslavl. Forget it. So I said that's not going to happen. But on the other hand, what they can do is they can make their developers available to Americans. So what I said was set up a marriage bureau. Let your local entrepreneurs have the government facilitate a website in which they publish the resumes and the availability of the local entrepreneurs and subsidize it. If you want to throw money at the problem, then pick up the salaries of these people and offer them for free to American companies. I met with the American ambassador last week in San Francisco, and the Library of Congress actually has a fund by which they bring people in. I said, what you do is bring them to the United States for 6 months, and you pick up the cost. So these, people, all they get, these Russian developers are getting for coming to America is their living expenses, and they get to work for American companies, and the Russians will give them a stipend for doing that. The cost to American companies is zero. If I'm a Silicon Valley startup and I can get a brilliant Russian mathematician working for me for 6 months, I'll do anything I can to get them. I'll pick up the housing costs if I have to, because you can't get the level of talent in Silicon Valley. What happens after 6 months? These people are going to go back home because we won't give them visas. We don't give anyone visas. And they're going to end up working for the same companies that they worked for before. Now they'll pay them salaries, local salaries, $25,000, $30,000 a year, which is a bargain for American companies. The Russians now have learned about American ways, about American technology. They have friends over here, and they get to gainfully work for American companies. So both sides win. Silicon Valley companies now have access to brilliant talent that they're desperately lacking. The Russians now get access to American markets, and ultimately both sides win because you end up building two great tech centers, right? So that was my prescription for Russia. In Japan, I still don't know what to do. Actually, with Japan, what I recommend for Okinawa, because Okinawa is an island on its own. The biggest thing which holds back Japan is government regulation and the bureaucracy and so on. I said instead of more government regulation, do one thing: turn the entire island of Okinawa into a free trade zone. Because right now you only have Americans over there. The Japanese go abroad for duty-free shopping. They come to Hawaii. Well, why not turn Okinawa into Hawaii? Remove all regulations there. Companies can be started, closed at the drop of a hat. No regulations there. And if you want to throw money at the problem, then offer tax rebates or offer. First of all, let companies move there. Make it a tax haven. Any Japanese or any foreign company that wants to come there, first 5 years, no taxes. Okay. When they hire your locals, give them some money to train your locals. Give them $10,000, $20,000 a year, $50,000, whatever it costs to train your locals. What I told them is going to happen is that suddenly they'll have an influx of companies from the mainland. They'll have also allow immigrants to come there because companies will bring people in from all over the world. Okinawa, within 5 years, could now turn into a hub of economic activity and lead the way for the rest of Japan to get out of the rut it's in. That's my recommendation to Okinawa. And there's no reason why that won't work. And so the criticism I've gotten from the Japanese administrators who actually posted messages on TechCrunch and so on is that that'll bankrupt our economy. We won't get the government revenue we're getting from local industry, and we won't be able to afford to educate children and all this other crap. They don't seem to understand that the solution isn't to raise taxes and to make the pie, and to have more control. The solution is to make the pie bigger, remove the regulations, let the economy flourish, let people come in here and let more businesses move here. They'll develop the island, and suddenly everyone will rise out of poverty.
Yes. End of it. I apologize, I came late. I just had a question, and you kind of segued into that. Do you have any perspective on network neutrality and impact, and whether or not that impacts the ability of entrepreneurs and innovators to create applications and the pipe being controlled by some ISPs too?
Yeah, I think net neutrality is great and so on, but it's not stopping anyone right now. It's not an impediment, and there'll be if one cable company starts charging you more to YouTube download, someone else will come along and obsolete the cable company because you've got satellite providers that can do it. You can have, the American model is that when you set up obstacles, other solutions come in to obsolete these obstacles. The companies that do that will just obsolete themselves. They'll go out of business. For example, in the telecom industry, all it requires is for Reliance or Tata from India to come here and open up shop over here, and they'll put these operators out of business. Because in India, calls cost half a cent a minute. Like when I go to Delhi and I want internet access, I buy a SIM card there for like $3, which I can use while I'm there. And then I buy the data plan cost me $2 for 100 megabytes of downloads. Okay. For $6, I think you get unlimited downloads over there. Right? Just insanely cheap. What we need these Indians coming here and competing with Verizon and AT&T. But if you set up all these artificial barriers, that'll happen. Because Indian companies are now buying up Western companies. If we did stupid things, there would be a balance on it. So this is the advantage of capitalism and having free trade and the, lowering barriers, that the, things balance out on their own.
We have a reception in room 215.